Hey everybody, it's ScomletX, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing another premiere draft of Shadows of Innistrad Remastered. It is the start of week 3 of the format, so the Shadows of the Past have changed again to the Morbid and Macabre. So these are going to be cards focused around triggers when the card dies. There are a lot of cards with the Morbid mechanic that are if any creature died this turn, you get a bonus. And there are some cards like Young Wolf here with the Undying mechanic to come back from the grave if it has no +1/+1 counters on it. Then it's going to come back with a +1/+1 counter on it. So 1/1 that dies comes back as a 2/2, and then it'll die permanently the second time. So very cool change of the Shadows of the Past. That being said, as we move into our pack 1 pick 1, we're just going to completely ignore that for now and take Always Watching. This is a pretty ridiculous Anthem effect for limited. It's going to give all of your non-token creatures +1/+1, which is just okay. I don't think I'd really first pick that, but also giving them Vigilance is a massive buff that makes it really, really hard for your opponent to win in any games where you are racing your opponent because you're constantly attacking them while still leaving all of your blockers up. Always Watching, very powerful rare. That's going to be my pack 1 pick 1 there. For pack 1 pick 2 from the Shadows of the Past, we see Bloodflow Connoisseur, which is pretty slow. A 3-mana 1/1 that can sack creatures, get a +1/+1 counter. It's okay if you have a ton of cards focused around creatures dying or a ton of sacrificial fodder, but it is not a card I'm going to take this highly. That's just a role filler once I go really deep into that sort of game plan. Instead, I'd rather go for Noose Constrictor as the strongest just standalone aggro creature. 2 mana for a 2/2 reach with a flexible pump spell ability, discarding cards to buff itself, or just Alchemist's Greeting for a removal spell. But this isn't the greatest in red-white. This is really good in red-black or red-blue, where you can have a decent amount of ways to discard it and cast it for cheap. Red-white's not really going to do that. So I think I'd rather just take the best aggressive creature in the pack, go with Noose Constrictor to go with our Always Watching. Pack 1 pick 3, we do see a Rise from the Tides, which is a phenomenal card to push you into that blue-red spells deck. You can even play a deck in this format if you pick up enough like burn spells, draw spells, and counter spells. You can play a deck with like 0 to 3 creatures with Rise from the Tides in it if you really go for it, which is super fun, but don't think that's what we're doing here. Again, we have a super powerful white rare that I'd like to stick to, and one of the strongest cards in this pack is an incredible white card, the Thraben Inspector, a 1-mana 1/2 that comes with a clue token you can sacrifice to draw a card later. Just helps you a lot with curving out, making sure you're always putting something on the board, and also keeping drawing more cards, keeping more spells coming. So Thraben Inspector is just a ridiculous card, and we're going to scoop it up here. Speaking of ridiculous cards, Bound by Moonsilver is a phenomenal removal spell. That being said, Galvanic Juggernaut's a pretty cool card from the Shadows of the Past. I don't know how consistent it's going to be at untapping itself, but theoretically, if your opponent keeps chump blocking with it, it's basically a 4-mana 5/5 Vigilance. If they just keep putting like a 1/1 in front of it every turn, which is pretty cool, but if it stays tapped, it's going to be pretty bad. So I'm just going to go for the Bound by Moonsilver here, just a phenomenal removal spell. Pack 1, pick 5 now. Dauntless Cathar is very, very nice for white aggro decks in the format. A 3-mana 3/2 that dies and then can come back as a 1/1 spirit for a couple mana. Great card. Doom Traveler is also really good. Just because it's new to the format, I might take that over the Dauntless Cathar. Dauntless Cathar, probably better. 3-mana 3/2 that dies into a 1/1 flyer. Probably better than a 1-mana 1/1 that dies into a flyer, but I think this card's pretty nice for aggressive decks too. And I guess we don't have to spend any mana to get the 1/1 flyer out of this one. You know what? I'll take the Doomed Traveler here. I think I would probably take Cathar over Doomed Traveler in terms of power level, but in terms of cards, I haven't gotten to play with it all yet. Doomed Traveler makes the cut here. So pack 1, pick 6 now. Nothing super good in white. Spectral Shepherd is fine if I want to move towards blue-white spirits, which is possible because I'm only 1 card deep into green. And Obsessive Scanner is a good green card, but it's really good for Delirium, and I don't think that white-green is very good at filling the graveyard for Delirium that consistently. So I just don't think it's the archetype that makes the Obsessive Skinner that strong. Yeah, I'd rather speculate on blue-white spirits and take the Spectral Shepherd. Because again, we're just not tied to green yet. I do prefer Bound by Moonsilver to Blessed Alliance because this is a removal spell that we can use while on the offensive to stop their creatures from blocking, whereas Blessed Alliance is a removal spell we can only use on the defense when they're actively attacking us with something. So I'll take the Bound by Moonsilver. Okay, well, we do get the green-white humans payoff here. 1 and a green for a 2/2, and 4 mana to give a human double strike till end of turn. That is kind of the aggressive green-white archetype, so we'll take Veteran Cathar out of that pack. Do get the Young Wolf back, which is interesting. I feel like Sigardian Priest is probably better for this deck, but again, Young Wolf is the new hotness. Very cute card. Try out the new stuff. I'm just going to keep trying out the new stuff. Keep taking picks that are probably a little bit weaker, just in the interest of playing the new cards. If I really want to hit Delirium, this draft pod is open to it with Vessel of Nascency and Grapple with the Past. But the way our deck's looking right now, again, with mainly Always Watching, but also Veteran Cathar, Noose Constrictor, stuff like that, we've got some great aggro cards to try to just stay aggressive. Or we'd rather just take Guardian of Pilgrims on curve. I guess it's a pretty filler 2-drop though, whereas Vessel's really good for the Delirium if we end up needing to do it. I'll take the Vessel there. We could have also taken the green-white dual land. There were a lot of great options out of that pack. I'm pretty happy to be in green-white. Now we're getting a pretty late Byway Courier. Great aggressive human that gives us a clue token when it dies. Faithbearer Paladin's fine at the top end, and Lunarch Mantle is an okay aura as well. Oh yeah, we're getting straight up gas for being in this color pair. Not that any of these cards are very good. Howlpack Resurgence is the best, and that obviously doesn't work in our deck. We really need Delirium for Reaper of Flight to even be okay, so I'll just take the combat trick. Dauntless Cathar, pick 13, let's go. Again, Skinner, very good if you consistently hit Delirium. But I think I'm more just green-white humans aggro, rather than filling my grave for Delirium. Okay, I'm not going to play Bloodbriar. Ooh, Bruna the Fading Light is the rare that we open up. A 7 mana 5/7 Flying Vigilance. And when we cast her, we can return an angel or human from our graveyard to the battlefield. Excellent way to top off our curve. Huge game-ending flyer that also reanimates one of our humans from early in the game. I will absolutely take that. Ooh. 6 mana 5/5 flyer. Whenever another non-spirit you control dies, create a 1/1 spirit. And we're not going to have a lot of spirits in this deck because we're going to try to be green-white humans, so Requiem Angel seems like another just big top-end angel finisher. Selfless Spirit might be better. 2 mana 2/1 flyer on curve, but I am again gonna keep taking the new cards and playing with the stuff we haven't got to play around with yet. Now we have Drogskull Shieldmate being the best card in the pack for green or white, which is awkward because I would like to take non-spirits for Requiem Angel, but that's okay. We can have a couple spirits in the deck. I don't think, without any blue mana, Spectral Shepherd's just not that good. So I'll take the Drogskull Shieldmate. And Briarbridge Patrol is always a little slow. Take the Shieldmate here. Alright, pack 2, pick 4, we can scoop up an Angelic Purge. It actually looks a little better in our deck than normal. It's always going to be a decent way to exile whatever threat you need later in the game, because you can just sack a land to it. It's going to be awkward sacking a land with a 6 and 7 drop in the deck, but our deck does have Doomed Traveler and Young Wolf. Both of those are creatures we would just like to sacrifice anyway to buff them up, so definitely an Angelic Purge there. Again, Humble the Brute is kind of inconsistent because not everyone has 4 power creatures. Love the Devilthorn Fox, but I'm pretty low on 2 mana creatures, so that's probably the pick. It's either that or the Lunarch Mantle. I'm not in love with either of these. Lunarch Mantle, though, +2/+2 and just constantly giving a thing flying can end a game pretty quick. I'll go for the Mantle over the Fox. Trying to pick up some 2 mana humans instead. So I have double Bound by Moonsilver and Angelic Purge already, so I'm actually going to take Lone Rider over the Bound by Moonsilver. This is really, really good if we get to cast a Lunarch Mantle or an Aim High on it, so that we can hit our opponent for 3, gain 3, and then flip it. If you can flip it, this card is absolutely absurd. So we'll take the Lone Rider here. I would love to wheel the Bound by Moonsilver, but that feels very unlikely. Maybe we'll wheel the Ironclad Slayer, though, which could be okay with Lunarch Mantle in the deck. Another Doomed Traveler. Let's play some more of the new hotness. Sure. Play a bunch of Doomed Travelers in here. Make our Angelic Purges and Lunarch Mantles better. True Faith Censor's probably a card we're supposed to take. It's very good with a high human count, giving +2/+1 vigilance. But let's keep up all the new stuff. Play with it often. So here we have Guardian of Pilgrims for a filler 2-drop. I actually like this quite a bit, even though it's not a human. Its Enter the Battlefield effect is pretty nice for a 2-mana 2/2. Still think I take True Faith Censor over it, but it's close. We did see multiple True Faith Censors, so one of them will probably come back to us. Although I guess this pack isn't coming back. Oops, wrong card. I'm going to take the Guardian. I think we're seeing enough late True Faith Censors that we can get one later in the draft here or in pack 3 pretty easily. No 4-mana creatures yet, and the Provisioner is a pretty good one for a humans deck. We'll scoop that up. Hollowhenge Scavenger is a nice morbid trigger. If you can play this and trigger its morbid ability, 5-mana 4/5 that gains 5 life when it hits the board is really huge in a race position. Okay, I'll take the 2-drop human. I've seen a lot of good blue spirits. We definitely could have been blue-white spirits as an option here as well. Alright, very self-explanatory final picks here. Just take the cards that fit the deck. Just like one in each pack at this point. Oh, worth noting here, I think I said that this was another Premier draft. This is a traditional draft we're playing today. It's going to be a best 2 out of 3 again. So we will have sideboard options. Ooh, pick 14, Intrepid Provisioner. Pretty happy to see that. Swift Spinner, you can go on the sideboard. Pack 3, pick 1. I'm a very big fan of Griffspoon. Being able to buff any creature up into a flyer with 1 additional power is great, and you can keep recasting it from the grave. If we can wheel the Veteran Cathar, that would be fantastic. I think it's more likely to wheel than the Griffspoon is, so I'm going to take the Griffspoon. Another 3-bit Inspector, don't mind if I do. Insta Slam Dunk, get in the deck. Got a lot of 1-drops now, so I might have to cut this this wolf. Oh my god, yeah, we're going to take a 3rd Thraben Inspector. Much as I have been taking the new cards over the old stuff, I'm not going to play another Young Wolf over a 3rd Thraben Inspector. Triple Thraben Inspector is just a great start for any white-based deck. That's going to help us a lot at just constantly having things to do, constantly having cards in hand, spells to cast. Trying to look through, see what we're probably cutting here, because we've got a lot of cards right now. Could try out this Hollowhenge Scavenger, but I don't really want that many like 5-mana things. I'll just take the human 4-drop. It's a pretty filler one, but I think it's better than Briarbridge Patrol in here most likely. Although now we've got triple Thraben Inspector, so 3 Inspector, 1 Courier, 1 Briarbridge Patrol. Maybe that is enough clue production that once in a blue moon we actually get to cheat a creature into play with the 3 clue sack ability, which would be really cool. I think I'm doing good enough on removal spells plus combat tricks to not need a Rabid Bite, so I can take a 4th Thraben Inspector or a Courageous Outrider. You know, I've missed often enough on Courageous Outrider, even with, what, a 15 human deck. I've just missed enough on Outrider that I'm a little off it and would actually be pretty okay with just playing 4 Thraben Inspectors. But if I miss in a 16 human deck looking 4 cards deep, then I'm just cursed. I'm just cursed if I fail to find humans with this Courageous Outrider. So I guess we'll find out today if I'm cursed or not. I don't like Murderer's Axe. Guardian of Pilgrims is fine, but I'm already probably cutting it because I have a lot of 1s and 2s. Might play a scavenger. Don't think we're playing a graph mull in here, even though we do have some clues. I think anything I take there is pretty likely to get cut. I'll play another byway courier. I'll play that over shield mate. I don't need the fixing that much. Yep, and I definitely don't need puncturing light. Let's cut all the non-humans. If I keep playing the Briar Bridge Patrol, this is a 17 human deck. We could have all of our creatures be humans if I cut Noose Constrictor. Not all of them, but most of them, all of them but our angels. And then if I fail on Courageous Outriders, then just the world has cursed me. Another Intrepid Provisioner? Yeah, I would rather play that than the Fiendbinder, I think. Especially with how many humans we have in the deck. And I don't think I'll play double Lunarch Mantle. I'll play the one, maybe. This is 29 cards. We wield the Veteran Cathar. Excellent. Now I can cut the Guardian of Pilgrims. Yeah, it's just 100% humans all day long. We'll drop Vessel of Nascency for sure. Probably the Combat Tricks. I still want the Lunarch Mantle. Go with the Lone Rider. Skinner's also a human. Fine Filler 2-drop. This is probably the worst card left in the deck. No, Briar Bridge Patrol probably is with 4 other 4-drop humans, so we'll cut that one. I don't really have any other ways to gain life outside of this Lone Rider. I think I'm going to have to play Aim Eyes to get that Lone Rider to 3 power every now and then. Oh wait, no, we have 3 Intrepid Provisioner. Okay, never mind. We have the plan. We play a Lone Rider, then we play an Intrepid Provisioner to make it 3 power. Alright, and then we can even cut Lunarch Mantle, because we have Griff's Boon to give things flying without having to sack stuff. And with the ability to recur. Oh, I already have 4 Hollow Edge Scavenger. I have no idea how that happened. Keep rare drafting. Highest rarity cards. Maybe the alt key is just busted and it's just going to tell me I have 4 copies of everything. Oh, wait, I think I know how. So the prize packs that you get in this draft format are the same packs that you just buy in the store. Those aren't tied to the current week's Shadows of the Past. So since I've gotten like 50 to 100 something in there, prize packs in this format, that I've opened all of them, I probably have completed most or a lot of the Shadows of the Past, even the ones for future weeks that we haven't drafted yet. That's what's going on. But yeah, that way for people who expand their collection just by buying packs and opening them, they don't have to wait for the later weeks. They'll just get cards from every Shadows of the Past from the get-go. There's nothing in the sideboard I really want to play. Again, I could play that Lunarch Mantle, but I think I'm just going to try triple Provisioner for the Lone Rider, and we just go for a super, super high creature count here. That way I can still run a massive amount of humans and still play my Great Angels. 18 humans. And 2 angels in here. And if my Courageous Outrider doesn't manage to draw a human out of my deck, then I'm going to flip. I'm going to absolutely flip. Yeah, these are the best non-creatures, 100%, that we have. I don't have any mana ramps, so I don't really want to cut any lands with a really good 6 and 7 mana Angel. So I probably do cut the Obsessive Skinner. I mean, putting a counter on Lone Rider is great, but nothing else really gets that much of a bonus from getting a counter on it. And this still leaves me with 5 1-drops, 4 2-drops, which is still very aggressive. Maybe I just drop the Faithbearer Paladin as well. That's a very easy way to trigger the Lone Rider as well, but not the greatest with everything else. Yeah, that seems a-okay with me. Doomed Travelers don't look great up front, but they're pretty good with the Purge. I don't think there's just inherent value of a 2 1/1s off one card, even if you don't get them both at the same time. Could be fine. Yeah, let's cut those two. And I think this is how the deck is going to start. But again, this is best of 3 today. We're going to be doing 3 best of 3 rounds no matter what. So we definitely have sideboard options because we picked our lane pretty early and stayed in it. So we just have a ton of playable cards in the side. Mainly, we would kind of hop off the humans train a little bit, cut like Courageous Outrider, put some non-human creatures in. I think is the main way of sideboarding. Get a little more grindy with some life gain from Scavenger, maybe a little Delirium, Vessel of Nascency, Obsessive Skinner action. Also play the Noose Constrictor to be able to discard lands, or play the Lunarch Mantle. Yeah, it depends on what we're up against. If we need a ton of really cheap removal, we could play the Puncturing Light. Definitely have sideboard options, but I like the deck how it is. And that is what we're going to run. Alright, here's a look at the completed deck list for today. It's going to be a green-white humans aggro build. We have 3 copies of Thraben Inspector at 1 mana, the best way to start off the curve in any white deck in the format, as well as 2 copies of Doomed Traveler, which is some of the new hotness from the Shadows in the past. Pretty much every creature in our deck is a human, and a lot of them are pretty strong, like Lone Rider potentially, Veteran Cathar potentially. Some great value plays like the 3 drops in our deck, all the 2 Byway Couriers and Dauntless Cathar, all 3 of them trading off into some form of value, a clue token or a 2-mana 1/1 flyer. And then the 3 Intrepid Provisioners are going to be some of the strongest cards in this deck, because again, basically every creature in the deck is a human, so these will always hit the board as a 3/3 Trampler that buffs another card with +2/+2. They are particularly great with the Lone Rider, making it so we don't actually need that much support to try to get these Lone Riders to flip. We also have Courageous Outrider with 16 humans in the deck. Should be quite consistent at drawing us an additional card, very similar to our Thraben Inspectors, except it's going to be the 4-mana version. And then we've got some top-end bombs. We have a 5/5 flyer that spits out a 1/1 flyer every time one of our humans dies, and a 7-mana 5/7 flying vigilance that returns any angel or human from our grave to the battlefield, which is any other creature in our entire deck. If we're really lucky and we have Requiem Angel and Bruna in our hand, and we slam down the angel and then they play some kind of removal spell that puts it in grave, and then just play Bruna next turn and reanimate that, that would be incredible. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but just getting back a human and getting a 7-mana 5/7 flying vigilance is already pretty absurd. Not only that, but as always, we're going to have a couple pretty great removal spells. Angelic Purge, 2 copies of Bound by Moonsilver. We've got a way to jump our humans in the sky and get some extra damage in with Griffspoon, which is nice and recursive as well. They can't really get rid of it without exiling it. And last but not least, we have another bomb rare in the deck, a great card for a creature-heavy deck like this, Always Watching, which is going to give all of our non-tokens +1/+1 and Vigilance. So mildly awkward with our Spirit tokens, which we have a couple of, but that isn't the main focus of our deck. We have plenty of non-token creatures as well to buff with this card. So without further ado, let's head into the gameplay and see how it does. Alright, here we are for game 1, opponents on the play. We've got Thraben Inspector into Cathar. Turn 3 we can play an Inspector and crack a clue, so we have a really, really good way to spend all of our mana up to turn 3, which is phenomenal. Our opponent is on some form of blue deck. They're on blue-black. Primarily zombies, but they can also do a lot of self-mill stuff. And if the first play is Graph Harvest, that's going to very clearly show off zombies and self-mill. They want to have a full graveyard to spit out more zombies, and they're going to give all of their zombies menace. So let's hit them with the Thraben Inspector. Make sure to play the Veteran Cathar here, stay mana efficient, and play our most expensive card each turn. Try to make the most of all the mana we can throughout the courses of the game. So we go 1-mana card, 2-mana card, turn 3 we're going to go 1-mana card plus. Well, I guess if they bounce the Cathar, then instead I'm going to play an Inspector and replay the Cathar because I have plenty of cards to play here still. I could crack the clue if I'm desperate to make sure I have that 4th mana on turn 4, but worst case scenario, turn 4, I can still go ahead and crack a clue trying to draw another land, and if I do draw another one, I can play it and just crack another clue which is still mana efficient, even if it isn't as good as getting a Provisioner out onto the board. And if I end up cracking a clue next turn and not finding the 4th land, I wouldn't have found it if I cracked the clue right now anyway. Unless I cracked a clue now and a clue next turn, which would be really not adding to the board very much. Diregraph Colossus, 3 mana 2/2, menace because of the Graph Harvest. When it enters the battlefield, it gets a +1/+1 counter for each zombie card in the grave. When they cast a zombie, they create a 2/2 zombie tap. That's pretty strong. Pretty strong. They cast some more zombies. That is strong enough. I'm pretty okay with trading Veteran Cathar into it. So I think I'm going to Provisioner up one of the Thraben Inspectors and just threaten to push in for more damage, because I don't think they're going to want to trade. And if they do want to trade, I'm cool with it, because we get the Colossus off the board. So no blocks from our opponents, so we do just get a lot of damage in there from buffing an Inspector instead of Cathar. And they do play another zombie. It's a prized amalgam that they can bring back from their grave to the battlefield anytime another creature comes back from their grave. Now they have a 3/3 and a 2/2 on blocks. Provisioner up an Inspector. I attack with a 3/4 and a 3/3. They can trade one creature into either. Just 1-for-1 trade there. That's fine. But they can't trade into Inspector. Or if they double block Inspector, then I kill the Colossus. I think it's probably Provisioner here, and we just keep slamming things down rather than binding something currently. Although if I do bind the Amalgam, I still attack with Provisioner plus Cathar, which is hitting pretty much just as hard, and then I have Provisioner for next turn. I could attack with everybody as well and just sack an Inspector to hit for 6, put them down to 7. We've got a zombie on tap next turn. One more mana would be perfect. I'd be really happy to just bind and sack a clue. This choice is really close without the clue. Sack. I'm gonna go for the bind here. Could see a pretty good argument for sending everyone in. That way if they did want to trade off here, we're still getting extra damage out. But I think because our deck has an Always Watching in it, and that would turn these into 2/3s, I should probably just keep them around. Because if we hit an Always Watching and we ended up just losing some for basically just 1 extra point of damage, it's going to end up being really bad. Alright, tons of 2/2s and 1/1s everywhere from this Diregraph Colossus. Really just need to find the mana to play a flyer now, and we can kill them with those pretty easily, so am I just going to start cracking clues? If I hold back, I'm going to die pretty fast because their whole board has Menace, and they can spend some mana to give one Death Touch, so I'm not going to have good blocks pretty much ever, because I'll have to double block, and then I'll lose 2 creatures every time I block. So I'll double block a 2/2 and get killed, so I'm going to play really, really poorly on the defensive. Unless I hold up all my mana for Veteran Cathar, I guess. But I'd rather crack the clues main phase to try to hit the lands. Yeah, I just don't think I have great attacks here, and if I don't attack in this turn, I'm never going to attack in again, because I'll just play more zombies and have infinite blockers. Yeah, I'm just going to crack clues, try to hit land 6, land 7. I think that's our plan now. And there we go. We hit land 6. Next turn I can play Requiem Angel, and that'll be pretty massive. Because with a Bound by Moonsilver on board as well, we just have a free sack outlet. I don't even have to move this around when I sack a permanent. I can keep it on the Amalgam, just sack an Inspector to turn that Inspector into a 1/1 flyer. I think that's the plan, probably. Yeah, and then I can just play Bruna next turn and reanimate a human. Alright, this is a really cool synergy that I didn't expect to see here. So I'm going to put it back on the prized Amalgam, sack a Thraben Inspector, get a 1/1 flyer. I can only do it once per turn, but still, once per turn getting another flyer out. Really, really big here. We could still die. Again, their board, 100% of their board has Menace. And it's getting really big. So if they can exile Requiem Angel, they can still turn this around. Diregraph Colossus has amassed quite the board state for our opponent. Alright, no attacks. Love to see it. Hit for 6 in the sky. I think I attempt to. I'm going to save Bruna for post-combat in case they kill Requiem Angel with an instant. Because Bruna can pick up angels. We do hit for 6. They're 2 life facing 3 flyers. Because this is best of 3, is it better to just not tell them about Bruna and just play 2 couriers? Still really likely to kill them next turn. And it also, I guess it plays just as many blockers and the blockers are smaller. You know what, I'm not going to do any best of 3 mind games. I'm just going to let them see Bruna. Just let them know what they're facing off against. Here you go. It is the significantly better play for trying to win this game. But it might be better trying to win the match to just play 2 couriers. Because it's still just as many blockers at least. But it does make it way harder for my opponent to find a way to not die in the sky. And I do scoop them up there. Alright, so our opponent knows the secret is out. We have a Requiem Angel and we have a Bruna. And that's our late game plan. And those cards definitely popped off. I don't really think we have much of a sideboard here. We know that we're going to be on the draw instead of on the play, so I could cut a land, but again, I've got a 7 and a 6 drop, so I'm kind of okay being really high on mana. Guess I could grab in some naturalized style effects, but I don't think I got any. Bound by Moonsilver is actually a little worse against their deck. Because they have a drag under, they can bounce their own creature to save it from the bound. But we're low enough on removal, we just keep that in. I'm not going to swap it out for a Puncturing Light or something. Their deck did seem relatively weak against flyers, so we could play Lunarch Mantle as an alternative way to give things flying. So that we have Griff's Boon and Lunarch Mantle and the big angels. So if I do cut a land for something, it's probably cut a land for Lunarch Mantle. Call it a deck there. Yeah. Is there anything else I'd want to cut in this matchup? Not really. Cut a land for Lunarch Mantle. On the draw. One more draw step to see a land. Alright. Seems fine. See how things go in game number 2. They definitely have a pretty sweet zombie deck. They did have some ways to bring the prized amalgam back, because the Haunted Dead that they ended up casting can come back from the graveyard for 2 mana if they discard some cards. So if they end up recurring a Haunted Dead from their grave, and they also have a prized amalgam in grave, they will get both. This is super keepable, especially when we cut down to 16 lands, because the only really issue with this hand is that it's a little bit high on lands. But we're a 16 land deck this game instead of a 17, so it should be a tiny bit harder to flood out here. But yeah, I love our 1-drop. I love the clue token, making sure we have stuff to do with our mana in between the 1-drop and the 4-drop. Just love the hand overall. And we just draw a 2-drop, and now we can do that on turn 2. That also makes our turn 3 incredibly mana efficient as well. Again, just kind of showing the power level of Thraben Inspector, making sure that we can always be doing stuff with our mana no matter what's going on with our curve. Because we just turned, like, we could have been Inspector on 1, Crack the Clue on 2, try to find the 3 mana thing to do, but instead, since I found the 2 mana thing to do, I get to play Griff's Boon and Crack the Clue this turn. I probably should have cracked the clue first in case I drew something different. But all of my 1 mana cards are white, so this is basically the same. Alright, and then we'll Griff's Boon the Cathar. And there we go, mana efficient. Played all spent all of our mana turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3. Just constantly doing things here, which is what you want to do. You want to do stuff and things. There's a Bound by Moonsilver, but I'm just going to start slamming down some Intrepid Provisioners, I think. Next turn, I think I'll go Lone Rider Bound by Moonsilver, so I can set up the Provisioner on Lone Rider play to flip it. It's a 3-4, right? Yeah, they can't kill that, so this gets more damage in. They take 6, or they find a chump block somewhere, and they just take the 6. Here's a Drownyard Explorers. Had to tap the Cryptolith Fragment, which means they had to pay a life there. If I bind the Explorers, they could double block to trade into Provisioner, but that's it. Yeah, that is A-okay. They kill Inspector, chump there, take 3, go to 4. I think I will still just keep the Inspector here. Oh wow, they're just going to go to 1. Alright, here's a Lone Rider. Alright, well, pretty nasty stuff there. The humans prevail against the zombie apocalypse, the zombie hordes. Very, very cute. Like the ending of The Walking Dead or something like that. Yeah, just really, really, really good stuff from the green-white aggro deck there. Again, just being able to be super mana efficient all the way up the curve constantly was exceptional. Like, we didn't miss a single point of mana. Like, every point of mana was spent each game all the way up to like turn 5, turn 6. And then, of course, game 1, being able to close things out with our gigantic angel rares was super helpful too. So excellent stuff from the deck in round 1. We'll see if we can keep it up as we head into round 2. Here we are in round 2. Let's go ahead and be on the play here. This is a sketchy hand. I know I can play a Doom Traveler and an Always Watching, which Always Watching is a really strong card, but I really badly need to hit a green source. Because if I don't, these 2 cards are not going to be enough to win the game. Definitely a greedy keep. This feels like an LSV style greed keep. I swear every time I watch an LSV stream, it just keeps the craziest hands of all time. He's a way better player than me. So when I watch LSV, it just makes me think I should literally never mulligan. There was a keep in the Lords of Limited. I'm just going to go for it. There was a keep in the Limited Resources versus Lords of Limited showdown where LSV just straight up just kept a 6-lander with like 1 good card and was like, yep, let's do it. I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand. But hey, pans out here. We find the forest. We did play off curve for 1 turn, which is actually kind of bummer, because now I don't even want to Always Watching because it won't get an attack in. We play Cathar into Provisioner, then Always Watching, because I can't be mana efficient past turn 4 with this hand anyway. I guess it depends on what I draw. It's not like I have another 4 mana play. But I think I need more creatures on board before I cast the Always Watching to make it better. Okay, this could work out really well if I hit another land, because now I could actually play Veteran Cathar and Always Watching in 1 turn, and it could be any land in the deck and it would work. Doesn't have to specifically be a Plains or a Forest. I'm not going to offer the trade for Guardian, that's why I went to buff the Cathar instead of the Traveler. I would be threatening more damage if I buffed the Traveler, but I'd rather keep a large quantity of creatures on board for the Always Watching first. Not that Cathar is like a super great creature when I have a 2nd copy anyway. If it was just, do I want to trade a Cathar into Guardian? Usually that'd be okay because I've got the 2nd copy, but because I have the Always Watching to make it so those creatures won't be able to trade later, I'm going to not go for that trade. Ooh, this is a bit awkward. Our opponent is stuck on 3 mana, so at least we're definitely both having difficulties. But yeah, now I can't play both Cathars. And I can only play one spell this turn no matter what. So do I just always watching? I get a pretty great attack and I hit for 6, or I trade into the Guardian and make a Spirit. And then I can just start jamming out Cathars after that. That honestly seems fine. I don't think I want to bound this early. And then again, if I draw any land, I get to play Cathar plus bound still. So I still have a use for all 5 mana next turn. Yeah, that seems good. We'll go for the always watching here. They're going to take it all, go down to 9 life. This does make the Provisioner a really big threat, a 4/4 trample. Pretty excellent on this board state, and even if they play a good blocker here, we can just bind it and then keep getting the Provisioner in. Alright, Tattered Haunter just literally isn't a blocker, so I'm very okay with that. It only blocks flyers. Hitting another plains before another forest is awkward because I don't actually want to bound by Moonsilver right now. I guess I can, because worst case scenario, I can just sack something to move it around later. If the options are play a Veteran Cathar and nothing else, or play a Veteran Cathar and bound by Moonsilver, I think I will go for the bound here and hit them harder. We'll hit them for 6 on board, if they don't have a trick. They could have an Essence Flux, that would be pretty nasty. Ooh, Feeling of Dread? That's also pretty nasty, because they can recast it and do it again. Alright. Apothecary Geist, that is really not what we want to see. Relatively large blocker, and it gains them a good amount of life. Back up to 12. They don't have the mana for the Feeling of Dread this turn. I don't want to sack a land for Bound by Moonsilver, because I'm now 1 mana away from Bruna. Probably just double strike something with Veteran Cathar and then cast my second copy. Yeah. Attack everybody here. They can potentially block and kill Doomed Traveler, but then I can double strike it. So it'll trade into Apothecary Geist at least. And I'll still get a 1/1 flyer out of it afterwards. The flyer will just be a 1/1 flyer because the Always Watching doesn't buff the tokens, but that's still okay. Alright, here's the Essence Flux blowout. Because I have the ability to give double strike at instant speed, this isn't as bad as it could be, but yeah, Essence Flux is just really, really good against Bound by Moonsilver. I might sideboard into the just straight up destroy over that. So now I have at least 1 copy of that. Kind of okay with Veteran Cathar dying because I'm going to play another copy anyway. But the 3/3 blocker of theirs is bigger than the 2/3 blocker. I think that's the main concern here, is how big their blockers are. I could also just double strike Provisioner and hit them to 4. But then I don't kill either creature, and it's going to be really hard to hit them again. I feel like it's better to get a creature out of the way than it is to put them down to 4. Yeah, let's get this Guardian of Pilgrims out of the way. It's just slightly bigger. It can block a Veteran Cathar, whereas the Apothecary Geist can't. Alright. Ooh, a Black Splash. Just natural Black Splash. No fixing, just drop a swamp. Faithbearer Paladin, that's very, very bad because of the lifelink. If I attack with just Provisioner, that's just an excellent attack, right? I just first strike away the Paladin. This just blocks horrendously anyway, so trade into the Tattered Haunter. Or attacks horrendously anyway is what I meant to say. Don't have the mana to give double strike and play Dauntless Cathar, but still, I attack with Provisioner here because unless they have a 1 black mana instant, their blocking options are horrendous. If they block with Faithbearer Paladin, then I double strike and kill it, and they don't gain any life. If they block with Illuminator, I kill it and trample over for a little bit. And if they don't block, then they're dead. Okay, so we just trample over the Illuminator a little, and then play the Dauntless Cathar. I have to play the Dauntless Cathar here because if I just hold up to double strike block the Faithbearer Paladin, they can Feeling of Dread to gain the life. Although they won't have the creatures up to block afterwards, so I think I would kill them on the crackback. Maybe it is better to threaten the double strike. Real close. I think I still just play Dauntless Cathar. Oh, yikes. Flying Faithbearer Paladin, now they're just Feeling of Dread to my creatures. Yeah, if they had Lunarch Mantle here, neither play was good. Play a Bruna, but I need to get them to... Feeling of Dread here. 8, 9, 10, 11. They are dead on board, so they'll have to. And then I'll play Bruna and have a blocker up for their flyers. Okay, cool. Thanks to Vigilance, I still chip in for 3. And I'll have Bruna up as a blocker for Faithbearer Paladin. I can't get another flying blocker. Could get a creature that turns into a flyer when it dies, but I don't even think that's that valuable because we can't consistently get it to die. I'm probably supposed to just take another Veteran Cathar. I already have Dauntless Cathar giving me a 1/1 when that dies. Yeah, I'll pick the bigger creature. Alright. Fingers crossed, no removal. We can block Faithbearer Paladin. Wow. Well, they kind of just had it all. Not much we could do there. Alright, this is an annoyingly bad matchup. Essence Flux, Drag Under are both incredible against our main removal spells. Feeling of Dread's really good against the Always Watching. Faithbearer Paladin with an Aura is just really good against aggro, as is Apothecary Geist. We'll play Puncturing Light. Swift Spinner doesn't even like block and kill very much out of their deck. It can kill the 2/1, but we only saw one of that, and I already have 1/1 spirits to try to kill that. I'll cut 1 bound for 1 Puncturing Light at least. I am on the play, I don't want to cut any lands here. Aim High are actually pretty great here. Yeah, no, that's the thing, we play some Aim Highs. Could even play a Noose Constrictor, but that lowers the human count. I'm not in love with. Play Aim High over Bound by Moonsilver? Because it's kind of removal as well. Untap and block a creature out of nowhere, sure. I actually think I like Aim High even better than Puncturing Light. Are any of my creatures that are just horrendous here? Not really. Yeah, I'll go double Aim High over the 2 Bound by Moonsilvers, and that'll be the change. That does feel like it significantly changes our deck for the better in this matchup, even if it is just 2 cards swapping out. We're swapping 2 cards that are really dead against their Essence Flux and their other bounce spell for 2 cards that can surprise them and blow them out, that are like really good against them. So 2 cards that are really bad against them for 2 cards that are really good against them is a huge, huge change. With Inspector here, I'm definitely going to go for the keep. Because we can crack the clue looking for another land. Even if we don't find it, we have a Doom Traveler to play soon, and if we hit just a bunch of planes, we can still play Courageous Outrider on 4. So this is a definite keep. I wouldn't even classify this as like an LSV greedy keep. This is just a keep. There's some amount of hoping, but not an insane amount. Alright, well, if I don't find the green source, I've got an Always Watching now, so if I just hit lands period, Always Watching into Outrider. We are still on that 17 land build, so just unfortunate not to find lands in the top 2. Do find one in the top 3, and Always Watching is great here. I think they're stuck on 2 mana as well. The Puncturing Light on the Inspector, sure. Okay, they hit their 3rd land and play a Dauntless Cathar. We're 12 cards deep on 3 lands. Alternatively, five blind draws deep. We found 1 land out of 5. Wow. Not like this, please. We're working on it. Yeah. These Provisioners are not very good on an empty board, so I think I play Outrider. Get a Doomed Traveler. Bunch of flyers from our opponent. Bunch of flyers from our opponent. Got 5 mana. I can play a Provisioner and a Doomed Traveler. Only 1 green, so yeah, that's the best way to use the mana. It's a race. It's not a great looking race for me. Wow, and they have the Faithbearer Paladin too. Might just do it. We're down to 9 now. Still 1 green source. We have an equivalent amount of plains and forests in the deck, and we have found 5 white and 1 green. They crack back for 7, so we're not dead yet. I kind of have to just hold up and aim high. Pretty sure, in case they have the +2/+2 aura. But then there's no way I can kill them in 2 attacks. Anyway. If they +2/+2 aura the Paladin... Yeah, if they have the +2/+2 aura, they're going to put it on Paladin, give it flying. I'm going to aim high Provisioner, block the Paladin. They're still going to gain 5. And hit for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I won't kill them on the crackback. And I'll still die a turn from now, so I don't think I play around that, because it's still just a losing game. I think I just play Provisioner, hope for the best. Cool. Well, that was brutal. We literally both kept 2 landers. They kept a 2-lander on like a mill to 5 or a mull to 5 and still found the mana faster than us. And they didn't even keep a 2-lander with their main 2 colors. They kept the same kind of 2-lander we did. We were stuck on 1 color, they were stuck on white-black, so they were basically stuck on mono-white, because I think their black is literally just in there for a Lingering Soul splash, most likely, because they're blue-white spirits. We never saw a black card in their entire deck, so basically kept a 2-lander mono-colored hand. We kept a 2-lander mono-colored hand. We were 7 cards deep from the start, they were 5 or 6, and they just drew out of it a little faster than us to win the race. Rough. Super rough. They also hit double of their secondary color, which was pretty important. Obviously, if we had double green there, we could have played Provision and held up aim high and definitely won the game. If we hit another forest instead of a plains, that round was basically just variance. I mean, game 1 was straight up. Their game 1 matchup, their deck is definitely favored in the matchup, but I think the aim high version of our deck, it's a really, really even matchup. We just got hit with some bad variance there. Winnable game. Not a winnable set of draws. We are going to be 1-1 now as we head into round 3. All right, here we are for round 3 on the play. Roll things out with a turn 2 Steadfast Cathar. Should be phenomenal. Cathar into Courier into Provisioner, and we have the mana set up to play them all guaranteed no matter what our draws are. Find land number 5. Opponent is on blue again. Blue-red this time. Blue-red in the format is very focused on spell slinging, casting a ton of instants and sorceries. Nothing yet from them, which is nice. Drop our Byway Courier. Potentially attacking for 5 next turn. There's a lot of really efficient red removal spells in the format. There's a 1 mana 2 damage instant, a 2 mana 3 damage sorcery, a 5 mana 4 damage sorcery that they can cast for 2 mana off of Madness. Those are all common. So the blue-red decks tend to have just a ton of those kind of burn spells out of the red, some card draw in the blue, and try to finish things off with something like a Rise from the Tides to make a bunch of zombies equal to the number of instants and sorceries in grave. There's also a lot of cards in the format that buff themselves every time they cast an instant or sorcery. We are very happy to see what our opponent has here, which is just a Tattered Haunter, which cannot block anything but flyers. And yeah, we're just curving out way too efficiently. So they are going to scoop up game 1 because they are immediately starting that game taking 7 damage there. They just took 5 last turn. Is this after combat damage that they're at 11, or are they about to go down to 4? I don't know. Either way, it's really bad for them. I don't think we saw enough to really sideboard. We know that they're blue-red, but they also have a plains there, so we don't know which colors they're splashed between red or white. They could be blue-white flyers, blue-white spirits, or blue-red spells. Either of those two. They could also just be full-on all 3 colors, which would just be a deck with a lot of flyers and a lot of probably red burn spells. So I did see 1 flyer. I don't know if it's enough to like start swapping aim highs around everywhere. But Bound by Moonsilver is worse against blue because there's the bounce spell that lets them draw a card. They can target their own card with it, save it from a Bound by Moonsilver. There's also the Essence Flux to exile their card, put it back on board, save it from a Bound by Moonsilver. So I could do the same sideboarding I did last time and cut a couple Bound by Moonsilvers for some aim highs. I think since I'm on the draw here, I could go for the 3, just cut a land, plop in 1 card that I want, and just choose 1 aim high. Don't change the deck too much right now, but we did see 1 flyer, and they're on blue and white at least a little bit, so aim high is probably good here. So we'll just do that. We'll cut 1 land for an aim high as we move into game number 2. Wait, why is it starting us at 0 life? Oh, I think I'm glitched. I'm going to reboot here. I guess our opponent just conceded the whole match. So they might have just been having a bad draft. Had a pretty bad time running into a really aggressive curve like that right off the top. So I guess they did concede the match there. And we're just going to be 2-1, I guess. So kind of a short draft today for a traditional draft, just about an hour. But that's not that short for like Premier Draft standards. So that's not bad. But yeah, 2-1. Probably would have been 2-1. I think that last matchup was probably going to go pretty well with the swapped in aim high there, and I think our deck's quite good, so I think we could have found another win in the next 2 games, even if we dropped 1 game there. But we didn't really get to see their deck in action, so maybe it was like an incredible deck, but even an incredible deck has got to go 2-0 against us after dropping the first game. So we were already definitely favored there at least, so 2-1 today. For this traditional draft of Shadows Remastered, we'll take another look at the deck, talk about the over and underperformers, but I think pretty much everything in the deck worked excellently. I don't think there were any underperformers. I guess Doom Traveler weren't that exciting. They didn't really end up dying very often for much value. Bound by Moonsilver was a little bit of an underperformer just because we played against blue every round. Yeah, we played against blue all 3 rounds, but against the blue-black deck, it was still great. Yeah, this card has some really major issues against Essence Flux out of the blue-white Spirits deck, and that was like a pretty big part of our loss in game 1 of round 2. Veteran Cathars, mostly we're just a 2-mana 2/2 on curve, but a 2-mana 2/2 on curve with a little bit of upside is quite solid, and we did get some upside off of the double strike ability later. The Provisioners were phenomenal, pretty much the best card in the deck because everything else was just a human on curve, so these were constantly pressuring our opponent's life total. Always Watching was incredible, all the games that we hit it, even though I think we lost most of the games where we cast it. And the Requiem Angel and Bruna were phenomenal as well. So yeah, some rough losses in round 2. Again, I think the matchup was winnable. If they had one less removal spell that game, or we really needed to be able to block with Bruna, we would have won the next turn. Or if we could have just hit one more green source in the second game to be able to curve out the Provisioner and cast the aim high that we sideboarded in, we would have been able to win game 2. They were really close, even if they were both still pretty devastating losses. We fought as hard as we could there in that round, and the other 2 rounds were both 2-0. Although I don't think the final round really counts because they just conceded the second game before it started. So yeah, great stuff from this green-white aggro deck. Got to see some of the new Morbid cards in action. They were pretty cool. Never got to Angelic Purge sacrificing a Doomed Traveler, which is one of the things I really wanted to do. I think that would be pretty fun to do, but alas, still got to do some just nice green-white aggro curves and some nice gigantic angels late in the game. So fun draft, great record overall, 2-1, we'll take it. Grab our 1,000 gems, grab our 3 packs, and move on. Well, that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons very much for supporting my channel, and thank you very much for watching the video. If you'd like to see some more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more of these videos in your recommended feeds. If you'd like to hang out with me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all again soon for some more Magic Arena.